Remember to avoid using search tools unless strictly necessary. For this creative writing task, you already have all the knowledge needed to write a short story in simple English. For your response, focus on creating a concise third-person narrative of approximately 800 words for part 1 of the story. Using basic English and simple Korean names as requested, the story should be interesting. Avoid headings and use straightforward language. The stars looked different tonight. Admiral Kim noticed it first as he stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station. Something was moving out there beyond Mars, something large. "Admiral, you need to see this," said Director Park, her voice steady despite the tension in her eyes. She handed him a tablet showing strange energy readings. Kim studied the screen. "How long have we been tracking these objects?" 3 days. "At first we thought they were asteroids, but they're changing course. They're ships, Admiral. Hundreds of them." The world below them continued its peaceful spin, unaware that everything was about to change. For decades, humans had searched the stars wondering if they were alone. Now they had their answer. Within hours, the Situation Room of the United Nations was filled with world leaders. Screens showed the approaching fleet, now clearly visible through Earth's strongest telescopes. "They're slowing as they approach Jupiter," said Dr. Bay, the lead scientist. "This is deliberate, they know we're here." President Cho stood up. "Have we established contact?" "Not yet, but our signals are ready. We've prepared standard greeting protocols in all major languages and mathematical sequences." The room fell silent as the first transmission was sent. Minutes stretched into hours. Then, unexpectedly, every screen in the room flickered to life, with the same image, a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed too large for its narrow face. "People of Earth," the translation software rendered in a flat voice. "I am Archon Lee of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been selected for resource extraction. Prepare for our arrival." The message was short, direct. There was no greeting, no attempt at diplomacy. President Cho stepped forward. "This is President Cho of the United Nations of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact, but must inform you that Earth is not available for resource extraction. We invite discussion of trade relations instead." The alien's expression didn't change. "Primitive species do not negotiate with the hegemony. You will be relocated to suitable habitation zones. Resistance is unnecessary and will result in elimination." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Admiral Kim turned to Director Park. "Activate the Hornet's Nest protocol. All defense systems worldwide on full alert." For years, Earth had kept a secret. Several alien ships had crashed on the planet over the past decades. The technology had been recovered, studied, and adapted. Earth wasn't as defenseless as the hegemony believed. "How much time do we have?" asked President Cho. 3 days until they reach lunar orbit," replied Director Park. "Their fleet is massive, at least 200 vessels." "Then we have 3 days to prepare humanity for first contact," said the President, "and to make clear that we won't be conquered without a fight." News of the approaching aliens spread quickly. Some people panicked, but most remained calm. Humans had imagined this scenario in stories for centuries. Now it was real. Admiral Kim drafted Earth's official response. Standing before the transmission array, he spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Kim of Earth's United Defense Initiative. Our world is sovereign territory. Earth is off limits. Approach at your peril." The response came quickly. Archon Lee's face appeared again, this time with what looked like a smile. "Your courage is noted, but misplaced. The hegemony has integrated thousands of worlds more advanced than yours. Prepare for our arrival and your transition will be smoother." In military bases around the world, soldiers prepared for a fight unlike any in human history. Scientists worked frantically to adapt the alien technology they had recovered over the years. "Will it be enough?" Director Park asked as she and Admiral Kim watched the orbital defense platforms being activated. "It has to be," he replied. "We've prepared for this possibility for decades. Operation Hornet's Nest was designed for exactly this scenario. The plan was simple but clever. Earth would appear weaker than it actually was, drawing the invaders into a trap. The hegemony expected primitive weapons and easy victory. They would Find neither. 3 days passed quickly. The alien fleet entered lunar orbit, their massive ships dwarfing anything humans had built. Small craft began to detach from the main fleet, the first wave of what the hegemony called a pacification force. In his command center, Admiral Kim watched the approaching ships. "They think we're easy prey," he said quietly. "That's their first mistake." Director Park nodded. "And their last if our plan works." As the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Kim gave the order. "Activate all defense systems. Show them what happens when you ignore humanity's warning." Across the planet, hidden weapons powered up. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the galactic hegemony was about to learn why Earth was off limits. The hegemony ships descended through Earth's clouds, their sleek metal bodies reflecting the sun. Archon Lee watched from his command vessel as the first wave approached the planet's surface. He expected little resistance. After all, thousands of worlds had fallen to the hegemony before. "Sir, the humans have activated some kind of defense system," reported Han, his second in command. "Primitive missiles or projectile weapons, no doubt," Lee said with a dismissive wave. "Our shields will hold." But as the first landing ships entered the lower atmosphere, bright flashes of light erupted from hidden locations on Earth's surface. Beams of energy that should have been far beyond human capability, struck the alien vessels. 3 exploded immediately. 7 more spun out of control, crashing into unpopulated areas. On his command screen, Lee watched in disbelief. "Impossible. How do they have particle beam technology?" Han studied the readings with wide eyes. "Sir, these aren't standard weapons. They've somehow modified technology similar to our own." In the underground command center beneath the rocky mountains, Admiral Kim watched the first wave of aliens fall from the sky. Operation Hornet's Nest had worked exactly as planned. For decades, Earth governments had secretly recovered and studied crashed alien ships. The technology had been reverse-engineered and improved upon in ways the original designers never imagined. "First wave neutralized," reported Colonel Choi from the weapons control station. "Minimal casualties on our side." Director Park nodded with satisfaction. "The element of surprise worked in our favor, but they won't underestimate us twice." She was right. Aboard his ship, Archon Lee's blue face darkened with anger. "Launch all landing craft. Target their major cities and power centers. Show these primitives the cost of defiance." The sky filled with thousands of smaller craft, descending toward Earth's surface. This time they came prepared for resistance, their shields modified to counter the human weapons. In cities across the planet, people watched as strange ships darkened the sky. Most had already evacuated to underground shelters built for this purpose. Those who remained saw the first shots of a war unlike any in human history. The aliens landed in key locations: Washington, Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, Rio. They expected to find defenseless humans. Instead, they met soldiers equipped with weapons salvaged from previous alien encounters. What the human weapons lacked in refinement, they made up for in innovative design. Near the ruins of the White House, Major Song led a squad armed with modified alien rifles. When a hegemony soldier appeared around a corner, Song fired first. The shot bypassed the alien's personal shield completely, something the hegemony had thought impossible. "They adapt quickly," the alien commander reported, to Archon Lee. "Their weapons shouldn't work against our shields, but they've found weaknesses we didn't know existed." Lee slammed his fist on the command console. "How is this possible? Their technology was primitive just decades ago." Han studied the battle reports flowing in from around the planet. "Sir, I believe they've recovered technology from crashed exploration vessels, but instead of copying it directly, they've innovated." This was the human advantage. While the hegemony had superior technology, they had stopped innovating centuries ago. Humans, with their shorter lives and constant drive to improve, had taken alien concepts and developed them in unexpected directions. In Seoul, Captain Kang led a daring raid on an alien landing site. Her team moved silently through the night, approaching the gleaming ship that had landed in what was once a park. "Remember," she whispered to her squad, Their sensors are designed to detect energy weapons and vehicles. They never expected to face humans with simple tools. Using climbing equipment and specialized cutting tools, Kang's team boarded the alien vessel. Within minutes, they had neutralized the crew and captured the ship intact, the first of many such raids across the IE. Club Admiral Kim received the news with satisfaction. Every ship we capture gives us more insight into their technology. Director Park nodded. The hegemony expected an easy conquest. Instead, they've walked into a war of attrition they weren't prepared for. After 3 days of fighting, Archon, Lee faced an unpleasant reality. What should have been a simple pacification had turned into a costly battle. Nearly 40% of his landing force had been lost or captured. The Council demands an explanation, Han reported, his voice low. No species has ever resisted this effectively. Lee stared at the holographic map of Earth, now marked with countless battle sites. Tell the Council to send reinforcements. I will not be defeated by primitives. Han hesitated. Sir, there's something else. The humans have broadcast a message across our communication frequencies. Show me, Lee demanded. The screen displayed Admiral Kim's face calm and resolute. To the Galactic Hegemony. You ignored our warning once. Earth remains off limits. Withdraw now, or face the consequences of a prolonged war against an enemy you clearly do not understand. Lee switched off the message with a snarl. Prepare the main fleet. We will show these humans the true power of the hegemony. As night fell over Earth, both sides prepared for a longer, more brutal conflict than either had anticipated. The first battle had gone to humanity, but the war had only just begun. 3 months into the invasion, Earth was a changed world. Major cities lay in ruins, but the hegemony had learned a harsh lesson. Destroying buildings did not mean defeating humans. Jin crouched in the shadow of what had once been a shopping mall in Busan. Now it was a broken shell, but perfect for hiding her resistance team. She checked her modified alien weapon, a sleek rifle that had been improved by human engineers to be more effective than its original design. They're coming, whispered Min, her scout. 5 soldiers, standard patrol pattern. Jin nodded and signaled to her team of 8 fighters. Once they had been ordinary people, a teacher, a chef, a bus driver. Now they were Earth's defenders, fighting with a determination that had shocked the hegemony. The alien patrol moved with confidence down the empty street. They had conquered thousands of worlds and expected this one to follow the same pattern. Initial resistance, followed by surrender when the population realized the futility of fighting. But after 3 months, the humans fought harder than ever. Jin waited until the aliens were in the perfect position. Now, she whispered into her comm unit. From 3 different positions, her team opened fire. The aliens fell before they could return a single shot. This scene was repeated across the planet daily. Small victories in a war the hegemony had expected to win in weeks. On his command ship orbiting Earth, Archon Lee reviewed the latest casualty reports with growing anger. How are they still fighting? We've destroyed their major military bases, their capitals, their infrastructure. Han, his second-in-command, looked troubled. Sir, we've discovered something unexpected. The humans are using a communication network we cannot detect or disrupt. This was humanity's greatest secret. Years before the invasion, scientists had developed a quantum communication system independent of traditional infrastructure. When the hegemony destroyed conventional communications, this shadow network remained operational, allowing human forces to coordinate globally. In a hidden bunker beneath the Alps, Admiral Kim met with the surviving world leaders. Maps showed hegemony positions across the planet, matched against human resistance cells. Their strategy is failing, Kim explained. They expected us to fight conventionally, army against army. Instead, we've scattered into thousands of small groups, each operating independently but coordinated through our secure network. President Cho nodded thoughtfully. But we're still outgunned. We need a game changer. Director Park stepped forward. We may have found one. Captain Moon's team has successfully infiltrated a hegemony vessel. This was the mission that Archon Lee had considered impossible. Captain Moon and his Special Forces team had used stolen hegemony uniforms and identification to board a supply ship. Now they moved through its corridors, downloading crucial tactical data. Their security is designed to prevent sabotage by species they already know, Moon explained to his team as they worked. They never considered human methods of hacking. The data they stole revealed something critical: the location of the hegemony's main fleet staging area on the dark side of the moon. It also contained technical specifications for their ship's shield systems. When Moon delivered this information to Admiral Kim, it changed the course of the war. Dr. Bay and her team of scientists immediately began analyzing the shield specifications. There's a pattern to their shield modulation, Dr. Bay explained as she showed her findings to Admiral Kim. A vulnerability we can exploit. They never needed to fix it because no other species thought to attack this way. Across Earth resistance, fighters like Jin received new weapons, devices that could disrupt hegemony shields by targeting this specific vulnerability. The next time Jin's team encountered a hegemony patrol, they tested the new technology. The aliens' shields flickered and failed, leaving them exposed. News of this breakthrough spread rapidly through the human quantum network. For the first time, since the invasion began, hegemony forces found themselves truly vulnerable on the ground. Archon Lee received the reports with disbelief. How could they have discovered this weakness? Our shield technology has been unbreached for centuries. Han's expression was grim. Sir, we may have underestimated their adaptability. They learn and innovate at a rate unlike any species we've encountered. Lee slammed his fist on the console. I want all forces to pull back to defensive positions. Request reinforcements from the Council immediately. But the Council's response was not what he expected. Cost analysis does not support further investment in Earth subjugation. Current losses exceed acceptable parameters. For the first time in its long history, the hegemony was considering abandoning a conquest. The humans simply refused to behave like any other species they had encountered. In her makeshift base, Jin received news that hegemony forces were withdrawing from Busan. Similar reports came in from around the world. The alien invaders were pulling back to fortified positions, shifting from offense to defense. Why are they retreating? Min asked. Jin smiled as she cleaned her weapon. Because they finally realized something important. Humans don't surrender, and we don't negotiate with invaders. As night fell over Earth, the hegemony faced an uncomfortable truth. They had gravely underestimated the species they had chosen to conquer. The war was far from over, but the invaders had lost their aura of invincibility. 6 months into the war, Dr. Bay rarely saw daylight. Her laboratory, hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, had become her home. Around her, dozens of scientists worked day and night, studying the alien technology captured in battle. She rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the strange device on her workbench. It was part of a hegemony ship's shield generator, recovered from a downed vessel near Sydney. I think I found something, she said, calling over her assistant. Look at this frequency pattern. Their shields operate on a predictable cycle. This was the breakthrough Earth had been waiting for. The hegemony's technology was advanced, but it had a fundamental flaw. It had been designed to counter weapons the aliens already knew. They had never needed to defend against human innovation. While Dr. Bay worked on shield technology, resistance fighters around the world continued their guerrilla campaign. In what was once downtown Tokyo, Commander Sun led a squad through the Yao ruins, hunting for hegemony patrols. They're changing tactics, Sun told his team as they watched an alien ship land nearby. They're staying in larger groups now. They've learned to fear small human units. This shift in alien strategy was a victory in itself. The mighty hegemony, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, had been forced to adapt to human tactics. On his command ship, Archon Lee faced growing pressure from the Hegemony Council. Your reports indicate unacceptable losses, the council representative said through the communication screen. Explain why a primitive species continues to resist successfully. Lee struggled to keep his frustration in check. They fight differently than any species we've encountered. They should have surrendered when we destroyed their cities, but instead they scattered and adapted. And this quantum network you mentioned? You still cannot disrupt it? No, Lee admitted. Their communication system operates on principles we haven't seen before. We can't locate its nodes or intercept its signals. This was humanity's hidden advantage. Years before the invasion, Earth scientists had developed a revolutionary communication system based on quantum entanglement. Unlike traditional signals that could be intercepted or jammed, this network was virtually undetectable. In the war room beneath the Alps, Admiral Kim used this system to coordinate a global counteroffensive. "We're ready to move to the next phase," he told the assembled leaders. Dr. Bay's team has developed weapons that can bypass hegemony shields. Director Park looked at the global map, showing hegemony positions in red and human resistance cells in blue. "If we strike simultaneously across all fronts, we might force them to reconsider their invasion." Admiral Kim nodded. "Send the order." Operation Turnabout begins at dawn. As the sun rose over different parts of the world, human fighters received the same message through the quantum network. Attack Pattern Delta, shield disruptors authorized. Jin and her team in Busan were among the first to strike. They approached a hegemony outpost that had been established in the city center. The aliens had chosen the location for its defensibility, surrounding it with shield generators. "Activate disruptors," Jin ordered. Her team switched on the devices Dr. Bay had developed, small units that emitted a specific frequency to disrupt the alien shields. To the hegemony soldiers inside, it seemed impossible. Their impenetrable shields flickered and failed. Before they could react, Jin's team had breached their defenses. Similar scenes played out across the planet. For the first time, hegemony forces found themselves truly vulnerable. Ships that had once dominated the skies fell from the heavens, their shield systems compromised by human ingenuity. In his command ship, Archon Lee received frantic reports from ground forces. "Our shields are failing everywhere," Han reported, his voice tense. "They've found a weakness in the modulation pattern." Lee stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Across Earth, hegemony positions were falling to human attacks. "How is this possible? That shield design has protected our ships for centuries." "Sir," Han said carefully, "I believe we've made a critical error in our assessment of humans. They don't think like other species we've conquered. They see problems differently." This was the truth the hegemony had failed to understand. Humans, with their short lives and endless adaptability, approached challenges unlike any species in the galaxy. When faced with superior technology, they didn't try to match it. They found ways around it. In her laboratory, Dr. Bay watched the reports of battlefield successes with satisfaction. "The hegemony built their empire on technological superiority," she told her team. "But they forgot that technology is only as good as the creativity behind it." As Operation Turnabout entered its second day, Archon Lee faced the most difficult decision of his career. Hegemony forces were retreating across the planet, unable to counter the new human weapons. "Send an urgent request to the Council," he ordered Han. "We need reinforcements immediately." Hours later, the Council's response arrived. It was brief and shocking. "Request denied. Cost-benefit analysis does not support additional resource allocation. Negotiate withdrawal terms." For the first time in its 1,000-year history, the mighty hegemony had been forced to consider defeat. Lee stared out at the blue planet below, a world that should have been an easy conquest. "Prepare a communication to Earth's leaders," he said finally. "Request terms for a ceasefire." As word spread through the quantum network, humans around the world celebrated their first real victory. The battle was not over, but the invaders had blinked first. The neutral location chosen for the peace talks was a small building in Geneva, Switzerland. Once it had been a museum. Now it stood as one of the few intact structures in a city otherwise damaged by war. Outside, the spring air carried the scent of new growth, nature already beginning to reclaim areas destroyed in the fighting. Admiral Kim arrived first with Director Park and a small team of advisors. Though they had been fighting for a year, This was the first time they would meet the hegemony leadership face to face. "Do you think they will honor any agreement we reach?" Director Park asked quietly. Admiral Kim watched as the alien shuttle descended from the sky. They have never been forced to negotiate before. This is new territory for them as it is for us. From the shuttle emerged a tall figure with pale blue skin, Grand Counselor Shin of the Hegemony Central Authority. Unlike Archon Lee, who had led the military invasion, Shin was a political leader from the Empire's core worlds. He had traveled across the galaxy specifically for these talks. The meeting room was simple, a round table with chairs for both delegations. No weapons were allowed inside, though security teams from both sides watched carefully from a distance. "Admiral Kim," Shin said, his translator converting his words to clear English. "The hegemony acknowledges your effective defense of your world." Kim nodded politely. "We fought to protect our home as any species would." Shin tilted his head slightly. "Not any species. In our experience, most accept their place once superior force is demonstrated." "Then you have not encountered many species like humans," Kim replied. The negotiations began in earnest. The hegemony, accustomed to dictating terms, found themselves in unfamiliar territory. The humans did not behave like a defeated enemy seeking mercy, nor did they demand excessive reparations like a vengeful victor. "We propose mutual recognition," Director Park explained, laying out Earth's terms. "The hegemony will acknowledge Earth and the solar system as sovereign territory, off limits to exploitation. In return, we will consider limited cultural and technological exchange as equals." Shin seemed puzzled by this approach. "You could demand more. Our forces have suffered significant losses. We don't want your resources or territory," Admiral Kim explained. "We only want what we stated from the beginning, to be left in peace." During a break in the talks, Shin approached a window overlooking what had once been Geneva's Lake District. Director Park joined him. "Your cities are in ruins," Shin observed. "Yet you do not seem angry or bent on revenge." Park watched birds flying over the lake. "Rebuilding is easier than learning to live with the weight of unnecessary cruelty. We've had enough wars among ourselves to understand that." This concept, restraint not from weakness but from wisdom, was foreign to the hegemony's thinking. Their empire had expanded for millennia on the principle that power must always be used to its fullest extent. When negotiations resumed, Shin presented a counterproposal. "The hegemony will recognize Earth's independence and provide technical assistance for rebuilding. In exchange, we request that humans share their unique approach to shield disruption technology." Admiral Kim smiled slightly. "So you can make your shields immune to our weapons?" Shin nodded. "It would be the logical exchange." "We will share general principles," Kim countered, "if the hegemony agrees to recognize the sovereignty of not just Earth, but 5 other worlds currently under your control." This was unexpected. The humans were negotiating not just for themselves, but for other conquered species. "Why would you concern yourselves with worlds you've never seen?" Shin asked. "Because freedom should not be for us alone," Kim replied simply. After 3 days of talks, an agreement was reached. The Treaty of Geneva established Earth as a sovereign world, off limits to hegemony exploitation. The solar system was declared neutral territory. 5 other worlds would be granted increasing autonomy over a 10-year period. As the treaty was formalized, news spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty hegemony, undefeated for thousands of years, had been forced to compromise by a species many had considered primitive. On the final day before departing Earth, Shin requested a private conversation with Admiral Kim. "There is something I must understand," the alien diplomat said. "Your species was clearly outmatched in technology and numbers. By all logical measures, you should have been conquered. What made the difference?" Kim considered the question. "Perhaps it was that we were fighting for our home, while your forces were simply following orders. Or perhaps it was that we had to innovate to survive, while your empire has relied on the same approaches for too long." Shin nodded slowly. "The Council has much to consider. Your species has changed how we view the galaxy. As the hegemony ships departed Earth's orbit, Humans around the world began the long process of rebuilding. But they did so with new knowledge. They were not alone in the universe, and they had earned the respect of the stars. In the Grand Council chamber on the hegemony's capital world, Shin addressed the assembled representatives. We ignored their warning because we misunderstood the nature of strength. We failed to recognize that true power comes not from superior technology, but from the will to defend one's home at any cost. Earth's simple message, "Earth is off limits," had become something more. It was now a reminder throughout the galaxy that underestimating others is often the first step toward defeat.